So let's take a look now at the obvious features in SSIS 2008 in this part 2. We're going to talk about the data profile viewer and the data profiling task. These are both new features in SSIS 2008, and they're very, very related. So I'll start on the right side over here and show you here. This is the toolbox in SSIS. So we're in the Visual Studio. We've made a new package. We bring up the toolbox. And you can see that we have a new task, the data profiling task. Now, the data profiling task will create XML files. You, in turn, will then open the XML files with the data profile viewer. So over here on the left-hand side, what we're seeing is my start menu. I've drilled into the SQL Server 2008 start menu, and I've gone under the integration services folder, and we see the integration or the data profile viewer being listed right here. So the data profile viewer opens up files created with the data profiling task. Now, what do those files contain and why does it matter? Well, I'm just going to give you kind of a scant idea of what these are, because we are going to do a pretty exhaustive discovery of these in chapter 4 and talk in much more detail about all the profiles and all the different options that we have. But what we're taking a look at in this example, one of many I could have chosen, are data distribution statistics. So we're taking a look up here at, address line 1. So that's the column that we're working with. We can see that the data has a minimum length of 5, that the largest row in the table has a length of 39. So it's 39 characters is the most characters that are in that particular column. You can see down here this length. So this is length distribution. So what it's telling us when it says that there are 2,479 is that there are 2,479 rows in the database that have 17 characters in them. And you see a little histogram that kind of shows us that this is the largest. I have it sorted. You can see right here this arrow that shows that I've got it sorted in a descending fashion. And if I back out of this, you can see that that accounts for, let me just get over to here, that accounts for a little over 12% of the total volume of the table. So roughly about 12% has a length of 17. And we could actually make some pretty logical assumptions that between 15 and 20 is probably the bulk of the table. Okay? Or at least that based on the range of distribution, that's going to be the largest amount of distribution there. So that's just one area that the data profile viewer can do. There's a lot more. If we take a look on this, I've just kind of shown in this one how to do it. You grab and put into your design surface the data profiling task. That outputs an XML file that contains one of these information over here. Like here, this is the one that I was showing you before, was the column length distribution profile. So that's what we looked at when on the previous screen. I could have shown you the value distribution, the statistics, the null ratio, where it will show you what percentage of the rows are nulls, what percentage of each column is nulls. There's just tons of really interesting information that we're going to get into in detail in chapter 4. Okay, so this profiling task, you're going to be able to use that to make decisions in your packages. We'll see that in chapter 4. Okay, so definitely one of the new features. Another new feature, and a very, very welcome new feature in my opinion, is the import and export wizard's new data type alignment, data type mapping. So this is important to you. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, I don't need to use the wizard. Man, I'm taking an SSIS course so that I don't have to use the wizard. But you want SSIS to become popular, because the more popular SSIS is, the more money you can make as an SSIS architect and developer. The more popular your skills are, the more money you make, and the more fun it's going to be, right? Yay! Okay, so that's what we all want. One of the barriers to SQL Server 2005 was that it was not easy. Like it was like Microsoft in SQL Server 2000 had built this incredibly usable and user-friendly system in data transformation services, and then they ripped all of that out and said, we don't like users. We like programmers. So let's build SSIS 2005. So we want these wizards to be easily understood, easily adopted, and we want people to be able to use them quickly and easily. And that was one of the problems in 2005 was data types. We really had so many conversion errors and so many things were handled under the covers that we couldn't change. It led to problems. So here in SQL Server 2008's SSIS, you can see a new screen. This is actually a screen that we're going to, again, go into detail with this one a little bit later as well. You see, we'll cover that in the next chapter. You notice here that we have the choice to change the type during the transformation. So this is not a screen we saw in SSIS 2005. We can actually change the destination type. We can see what SQL Server Integration Services thinks is the source type, what the destination type it's going to convert it into. Okay. So very, very helpful. You will really dig that, I promise you. I'm not above using the wizards. I know SSIS inside and out. I think the wizards are a great way to get started and do very simple things sometimes. Now there's also going to be a set of new data types. I mentioned this in the last video. This is really not so much a new feature in SSIS as it is a reaction to a new feature in SQL Server. So there are these three new SQL Server data types here. You can see them, the time, the date time to, and the date time offset. And so to be able to use those in your SQL Server based transformations, you've got some new data types for SSIS as well. Now there's another new feature that you're really going to dig if you've ever had to work with lookup transformations. So in DTS, lookups were just an absolute disaster. They were so slow. You'd have so much bloat, overhead, whatever associated with the lookups that you would just about go out of your way to avoid a lookup query, to avoid doing lookups in DTS. And in SSIS 2005, it got a lot better. It was a lot more configurable. But in 2008, it just goes ballistic. And it's really so easy to use today and so much better performant. So we have in SQL 2008 in particular, we have better control over how the cache is handled when we're doing lookups. So if you're not familiar with caching, this is the option in SSIS to take a set of data and store it for later use. So we have the choice now in SQL Server 2008. Previously, we could only store it in memory, but now we have the choice to store it as a file or in memory. Okay, so in a file, you would really want to use that if you have a lot of data, too much data, or an unknown amount of data, and I don't want to run out my memory. Memory is going to be faster than a file. I think we can all be pretty comfortable in understanding that. But the file gives us a great option to do larger lookup situations here. So what you're seeing on the screen here is the old SSIS 2005 caching for the lookup transformation. You can see we really couldn't do a whole lot except for to specify the cache size, the maximum amount of the cache size. So in SQL 2008, we now have three different options for caching. We can choose no cache, partial cache, or full cache, which is the default. Now we also get a new feature called the Cache Connection Manager, which allows us to make a connection at a file. Okay, so we can specify here where we want to store it, in memory, in a file. And it's a two-step process to actually take advantage of this cache in a lookup transformation. You're going to get the cache manager, and it's going to go and it's going to execute the SQL statement, and it's going to load up the data into the cache, whether that be in memory or into the file, right? And it does that with a cache transform, which is one of the new transformations inside of your data flow tasks. And once you have loaded up the cache, then you add a lookup transformation and you're able to take advantage of that cache. So it's a two-step process. We're going to do that also. That's going to come in our, I believe it's chapter 6 when we talk about our real-world situations here. So you're seeing the screen here, the new lookup transformation. You could see the cache mode over here on the left side. We're up here. These are two different screens here. This is the lookup transformation editor. This is the cache connection manager. So what I've done down here is right here in my lookup transformation, I've said I want to use the cache connection manager. It's not the default. I had to actually change it to that. And then I have configured on the right side the cache connection manager. And you can see that I am storing that in a CAW file here, right? A cache. I don't have to. I could do this in memory if I just uncheck that box right there. Again, you'll want to use the file-based. Well, we'll talk about this later on. We'll get into working with the lookup transformations here. Another new feature. Let's talk about the package upgrade wizard. This is specific to SQL 2005 to SQL 2008. Okay, you might be, when I say the package upgrade wizard, you might have thought, well, I'm not upgrading from SQL 2000 to, no. The package upgrade wizard upgrades from SQL Server 2005's integration services to SSIS 2008. Okay. And one thing I mentioned at the beginning of the last video was that if you open up an SSIS 2005 package in the Visual Studio 2008, it will automatically upgrade that package. Okay. If you are interested in the 2000 to 2008, we're going to do that in Chapter 9. So here you can see the package upgrade wizard. I just dumped all these on one screen. Over on the left side up here, I have right-clicked on my folder and I can upgrade all of the packages, or I can upgrade an individual package as I want to. And you see down here in the very bottom where it says, let me find my pen, we are upgrading SSIS 2005 to SSIS 2008. So it's upgrading the object models, okay? Upgrading the containers, the names, everything like that. And you get the choice up here on this top right side to update the new profiles, the new connection strings. You're upgrading from 9.0 to 10.0, for example, in the native client. Things like that are what is going to be upgraded. Finally, the very last, I think most obvious feature here is you'll see the new ADO.NET connections in your data flow tasks. So what we have over on the left-hand side is 2005. Where's my pen? Did I have it? Oh, there it is. It was way down there. So this is 2005. This is the 2008 version. And what you see over here is the ADO.NET source and the ADO.NET destination. Whereas over here we see the data reader source and the data reader destination. Okay, so those are going to be different. They're going to serve much the same functions, just a little bit more logical, a little easier to work with the ADO.NET side of things. You know what? That's really the end of the obvious things. Are you surprised? Did you think I was going to have you take you through 50 different tasks and all kinds of new stuff? It's like a version 0.5 release, right? It's not like this massive overhaul of everything SSIS. Okay? So I tell you what, let's go ahead and take a look in the next video at the behind the scenes stuff.